Like the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, all variants of the Game Boy Advance did not have force feedback built directly into the hardware. While there were some specifically designed games that included rumble functionality built directly into the game cartridge, there were a handful of GBA games that offered rumble functionality when played specifically through a GameCube Gameboy Player and a standard controller inserted into controller socket number 1. Wavebirds, the wireless GameCube controllers, did not have rumble support, so these controllers obviously will not work. Here's a breakdown of all the GBA titles that ship with this underappreciated, slightly secretive Rumble Pak feature, along with a few other Rumble-based facts. Also, if you want to learn more about every Game Boy Color Rumble Pak compatible game, as well as the DS Rumble Pak accessory, I covered them extensively here on my channel. Links are in the description. Let's start with the obvious game on this list, Drill Dozer. Made by the same studio that makes Pokemon, Drill Dozer is one of the most unique games on Game Boy Advance. The game shipped on an oversized brown cartridge that contains built-in rumble functionality, and the gameplay was specifically designed around this force feedback system. Out of all the games on this list, Drill Dozer makes best use of the Rumble Pak by far, as the player feels the power of the drill with varying strength. The devs also took this rumble feature to the next level by allowing Game Boy Player users to experience the rumble when connected to a GameCube. Also, the game is smart enough to not rumble inside the Game Boy Player either, pushing the rumble feature exclusively to the controller. The Wii U Virtual Console release also supported rumble when used with a corresponding controller, but the Wii U eShop is about to be closed at the time of this video. But Drill Dozer is a quality action platformer, and the included Rumble Pak feature really does make the gameplay experience better. If there's one GBA game to go out of your way to play with the rumble feature activated in a Game Boy Player, this is it. A quality RPG, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga did not ship within a Rumble cartridge, but Alpha Dream, RIP, did include Rumble Pak functionality when played on a Game Boy Player. Instead of feeling the bumps and jolts during combat, the majority of the rumble will trigger during corresponding parts of the story cutscenes. I think not having the rumble trigger during main points of combat is a bit of a missed opportunity since timing is so important, but it still feels right when watching the story unfold. My vote is, play it with it turned on if given the option, since there's some creative use put into the shaking and bumping, but you're not really missing anything important without it. Either way, just play Superstar Saga or the 3DS remake, because it's a good game. Like the Game Boy Color original, the GBA sequel to Pokémon Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire, makes gameplay a little more interesting by including the rumble option when played on a Game Boy Player. Next to Drill Dozer, I'd say this pinball title makes the next best use of the Rumble Pak. Bumps and jolts are activated when the ball connects with the flippers and other interactive elements on the board with varying degrees. There's detail in the rumble, and I recommend playing this fun pinball game with this feature activated if given the chance. Although the name might be a little confusing, Super Mario Advance 4 Super Mario Bros. 3 was the last Mario platformer port on GBA. When played on a Game Boy Player, the player has access to a non-obvious rumble option found on the main menu. Unfortunately, it makes poor use of the rumble feature as it triggers when Mario or Luigi takes damage in the main game or when Thwomps crash to the ground. It's not that it's bad, it's just barely used at all. And to be clear, the rumble feature does not work within the Mario Bros. Minigame. I thought you might feel a little bump when hopping on a Goomba, or maybe when throwing fireballs, or even when collecting the card at the end of the stage, but nope. You only feel a brief jolt when Mario takes a hit. It definitely doesn't add anything to the gameplay, and you're not missing anything without it. You're much better off going out of your way to play the unique e-reader levels instead. Also, if you want to learn about this game's excellent Single-Pak multiplayer link mode, see the link in the description. Although these are two Japanese exclusive games, I'm going to combine them here into one listing because they're basically the same edutainment title. Nothing more than a kanji and math tutor. These homework simulators are sorta like the DS Brain Age titles for GBA. And there isn't exactly much game here, and when played on a Game Boy Player, the game will rumble when you get an answer wrong with the red X symbol. Unless you can read Japanese, you won't get very far either. Do you need to play these games? No. Do these games even need the rumble support? Absolutely not. Are you missing anything if you don't play these Japanese text-heavy games with the rumble functionality? Not at all. Also known as Summon Night 3, the sequel that remains exclusive to Japan, is actually a bit of a head-scratcher. In doing this GBA Rumble research, I saw several mentions that this later GBA release supports Rumble when played on a Game Boy Player. Unfortunately, after playing for about an hour, I didn't see or feel any Rumble Pak option. There is a partially finished fan translation, the version that you're seeing here, but I also double-checked the original Japanese release thinking maybe something might have happened when the game was patched. I didn't see any Rumble option in the menu screen, and I didn't feel anything on the GameCube controller either. Maybe something gets unlocked later in the game? If you know more about this, please share in the comments. Set for a Steam, Switch, and physical GBA release in 2023, this indie pup droidvania is scheduled to support Rumble functionality when played on a Game Boy Player. It's also assumed that the Switch version will have HD Rumble support, but this hasn't been 100% confirmed at the time of this video since the game is still being developed. I was able to play through an early build of Good Boy Galaxy, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. But it will be cool if Rumble is supported. I am curious to see though how exactly it's going to be used. And as one last bit of information, WarioWare Twisted has both an accelerometer to detect movement, as well as a rumble motor to provide force feedback, but the rumble feature does not translate through the GameCube controller. Playing by holding and twisting the GameCube isn't exactly the most comfortable way to play anyway. Also, Yoshi Topsy Turvy is a horrible game and you should never play it, but that cartridge only has an accelerometer, not a rumble feature, just to avoid any confusion if you happen to notice the similar cartridge size, the Drill Dozer. Finally, thanks to the dedicated work of the modding community, there are patches available to play some of these games with the rumble feature activated on actual Game Boy Advance handheld hardware. Some flashcards now feature a built-in rumble motor and when patched provide force feedback as if playing with the GameCube controller on a Game Boy Player. I won't go into great detail about these rumble features in this video as patches are always evolving, but just know that these cool enhancements are out there. So yeah, more Rumble games on GBA besides Drill Dozer. So, what do you think? Did you know that there are GBA games besides Drill Dozer and WarioWare Twisted that had Rumble support? Have you ever used the Game Boy Player before? Did you know that there was a Rumble Pak accessory for the Nintendo DS and several games on Game Boy Color had a built-in Rumble Pak, some being exclusive to Japan? See the description for more links and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, thank you for watching and game on.